I've refrained from giving any kind of commentary on the Jussie Smollett situation, using just some logic and common sense, and from what a lot of other people were commenting about. I wasn't sure about the story initially, so I didn't feel comfortable about making a statement or taking a stance. And with the recent developments, I will continue to do that. I will continue to do so because I don't think that all the facts are out yet. I think that there may be more shoes to drop, and I'm going to see this thing to the very end until I make a comment. There's a number of players in this story that are not very good. You have Chicago PD, you have mainstream media, you have Hollywood and entertainment, you have the politics, and you have the homosexual lobby. So, and even somewhat related, you have Lee Daniels, who I was not really familiar with. Now I'm a lot more familiar with. So there's just not a lot of good players involved in this. So I'm going to wait if the full truth gets revealed. And then at that moment in time, when this thing reaches some kind of a conclusion or finality, I will give a commentary. But until then, I will be maintaining my silence on this matter unless there's something that comes forward that I feel is noteworthy to talk about as a separate and particular issue. Now, I want some of you to forgive me on this. I am being a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I do believe that sarcasm and irony and humor is an art form and an effective way of communication. And it's a good way of driving points. So I'm not being silly. I'm not trying to be offensive. But just think about this for a minute. When you look at the Smolletts, and I guess they're a product of what would be considered a mixed ethnicity marriage or relationship. I believe they have a white Creole father and an Afro female mother. And I'm someone who am very much in the belief of a patriarchal society and a patrilineal family construct. Meaning that when you look at someone's family, you look at someone's background, I'm going to put more weight into the father and the father's side than the mother. That's not the final and the total prognosis that I would give, but that's where I will start. So when you look at the Smolletts, you have to start on the basis that the father is what will be called a white man. Even if the children have brown skin because of the mother. When you look at the fact that they grew up in entertainment and they probably grew up with probably the average wealth or the higher average median household income that most Americans, regardless of ethnicity, experience. So they maybe experienced additional finances as well. They experienced a different and an unrealistic situation when it came to exposure and fame and notoriety because of celebrity, because of entertainment. Even though we would look at them as a Afro family and the children, their upbringing was going to be quite different than ours and most Americans and really most people across the world. And you're going to have a disconnect with that, a disconnect with reality in general, and a disconnect with the Afro community specifically. So when I'm saying that as a defense, Jussie Smollett and his defense team should consider claiming partial white privilege and affluenza like that Creole white boy did and got a very light sentence, slap on the wrist. Part of that is tongue-in-cheek, but part of it I'm being dead serious because I want to see that the so-called justice system, if there is such of a thing, in this quote-unquote nation, if these things will be played evenly. Because if it works for him, Should not it also work for Jussie? I don't know if he's experienced the same level of wealth that young boy, whatever you want to call him, on the other side experienced. But he definitely experienced a far greater level of fame, celebrity, and notoriety. So I would really like to see that type of defense. Let's see where it would go. And let's hear the commentary on that from all the critics. And the last thing on this Lee Daniels individual, I've not really been familiar with Lee Daniels. I'm not a big pop culture person. I'm not a big entertainment person. Today, I don't really watch that much television. You know, I read news articles and I look on the internet as far as reading primarily to get a lot of my information and stories. And what I look at as far as what would be called entertainment or media or television, most people will consider that to be pretty nerdy or boring or lame. So I'm just not that kind of a person. So I didn't know really anything about Lee Daniels. But with the situation with Monique, and I think like, Rockefeller Records or something like that, and entertainment, and now this situation with Jussie Smollett, and Lee Daniels' name came up again. I guess he's what, the creator or executive producer or whatever of the show. And knowing everything about him, that he is one of these sodomite males, so-called man, just like Smollett is, and hearing quotes from Lee Daniels and using that to determine my opinion of him, especially for the Afro-American community and the Afro people in general. We should not support anything that Lee Daniels does. His work is smut, trash, garbage, and filth. I will never support anything that Lee Daniels touches. His quote-unquote work is an absolute disgrace.